Taking you live to Melbourne, where Victorian authorities are providing a flood update at the moment. We'll have a listen in.
Those communities on the Murray River in particular, from Swan Hill through to Robin Vale, all the way through to Mildura, should be starting to pay attention to our emergency warnings. There are flood watches that are out for those communities, and it is now the time to start preparing. We're likely to see minor flooding starting at Swan Hill from later on at the end of this month, the end of October. We'll then see major flooding, potentially by the end of the first week in November in Swan Hill. Downstream from there at Robin Vale, about another week before we start to see the headwaters there. And then by early November, Mildura will start to see minor flooding in and around their community. It's still too early at this stage to be able to predict what the flood levels may reach in and around Mildura, but again, early or mid-November through to the end of November is when we're expecting that to occur. Right now though, we have response that is occurring. We've been talking about Kerang for several days. The water level there currently at the moment is 77.88 metres and is likely to remain steady around that level for the next 4 to 5 days before it starts to recede. On the Murray River, in and around Echuca down to Turumbury, we're already seeing major flooding, and this morning we've seen it reach a level of 94.9 metres, which is what the Bureau has now forecast as the potential peak. We might see a very small rise above that, but again, it is intended to stay steady at that level for several days before we will start to see it receding in and around Echuca. With the rainfall that's anticipated, you've just heard we could be in response again in a number of catchments in the coming days, particularly the Severn and Castles Creek around Euroa, where we could see renewed moderate flooding. But I guess the good news for communities on the Goulburn River from Murchison through to Shepparton, and also for the communities downstream of Eppalock through Rochester and the like, at this stage we're only looking at moderate flooding levels, potentially at the upper end in some cases, if we see that upper flood level.